So engaging us on that conversation, we have the Dean of the UCC's School of Business, Professor John Gachi, as we explore the economic implications of turning the screw as far as this LGBTQI bill is concerned. Prof, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Right. So, first off, the bill has been passed. It's been years in the making. What do you make of this bill now that it has been passed in its current form? What's your understanding of the basics of this bill?
Well, my understanding is that to a large extent, majority of Ghanaians are very sensitive to LGBT issue. They are very sensitive to the protection of the families. They are very sensitive to what is taught to their children in school and what values the children gather as they grow up. That is the essence of the bill. And as a result of that, many attempts have been made to ensure that the process does not continue. But I believe the 275 parliamentarians representing their constituents have actually shown that there is a unanimous agreement to pass the bill. Opportunity to engage with the parliamentarians with this kind of statement that they put up in the public during the stages in Parliament.
Hello, Prof. It appears we're having
where the bill was considered, but I'm not sure they have not. Hello?
I can hear you. Go ahead. We were losing you briefly, but go ahead. I can hear you now.
Okay.
Well, we'll try to work on that connection. Sometimes these things are out of your hands, but at least his initial reflections pointing to the value systems in Ghana. Prof, we have you back now. Prof, you can go ahead if you can hear me. We have you back. You can go ahead.
Yeah. So, I must say that engagement with the and is based on law. It's not based on extraneous conditions. When the IMF deal was signed, there's no indication that there is a condition regarding LGBT. In the same way, when the World Bank loans were being assessed, the only condition that we knew of was Parliament to consider those loans and pass them. And I believe Parliament has done that. So to come at this hour indicating that if we go ahead to sign the bill into law, then all those money will elude us. It does not reflect the terms of the agreement that we signed with the IMF and the World Bank. And what the Ministry of Finance is doing is rather serving as a lobby center against the will of the people. I think we already know that the AG and the president indicated one way or the other that the bill will not be signed long ago. We are only finding financial reasons why the president should not sign the bill. That decision, we know of that, and the fear, we know of that long time ago. What the Ministry of Finance is doing is just to put, or if you like, to blackmail Ghanaians into thinking that if we do not support the president to refuse to sign this bill, then the economy is going to suffer hugely, and then all of us will suffer. But I believe the Ministry of Finance is misleading all of us. That is not the proper position. I believe you should also find time to engage Professor Eto'o-Ehene who interjected on a program that I was yesterday and indicated that the Human Rights Council has passed a resolution indicating that LGBTQ matters should not be used to deny countries of development finance and financial resources that they legitimately enter into with these bodies. So why from the Ministry of Finance? So I think that we are not reflecting our work in line with the reflection and the sensitivity of Ghanaians. The Ghanaians are saying that over 80% or 90% or so say they don't want this value system to be introduced or to be allowed to fester in our community. And at the same time, there is a need to protect those people who are in that bracket. And I believe Section 17 of the bill has some protection for them. If that protection is not enough, it's a matter of continuous engagement, but it's not a matter of flexing a muscle that you will not sign the bill. A president must live to the tenet of democracy, where the majority speak and that leads the way. When majority decide today that a president win election, he will take it gladly. So why is it that when majority say that we don't want this thing, the president will not take it? And we are using financial reasons. And some of the things are laughable. For example, the GRA will have to be intensify revenue mobilization so that we can reach debt to GDP of 17 to 18%. This is what we know already. 2022, 2023, and then 2024. All these things are in our budget. So I don't know why the intensification of revenue mobilization will have to be linked to LGBT issues. So I think that is my comment on it. Ghanaians cannot be, blackmailed to support the president's desire. And I believe
I think when you say the president's desire, the president has also said that wherever Ghanaians go on this matter is where he will stand. So I don't know, what desire are you referring to?
Well, I think that the president is not consistent. That is the point I'm making. His attorney general indicated clearly that that bill would not be signed. The president indicated some time ago that bill would not be signed. And when you look at the atmosphere
I don't recall that
atmosphere.
I don't recall such an instance where he says it will not be signed, though.
Okay, fine. So that looked in one direction. In fact, that was the reason why some time ago, about 5 months ago, there was a huge discussion, perhaps including your station, where this matter came up. There was various discussion. Penka was involved. Professor Zan was involved. Many people were discussing whether it was right for the president to say he would not sign it or not. So that's where I'm coming from. But the point is that this matter is very sensitive. The president will be leaving office at the end of this year. We need to know the reflection of other flag bearers in the country so that we can gauge whether the country is on one side in the issue of LGBT or the country is divided in dealing with LGBT issue. And that must happen now for us to see the direction we are going.
Okay. Now, there's this bit, before I bring in my other guest, there's this bit as well in terms of the bill not even reaching the president's desk. The bill has not even got to Mr. President, from what the Daily Graphic reports. In fact, he says, in response to the international community, he says, I want to assure you that no such backsliding, he's referring to human rights, the rule of law, no such backsliding will be contemplated or occasioned. That is by the bill. I think it will serve little purpose to go at this stage into the details of the origin of this proposed law, which is yet to reach my desk. That's what he said. So it's not even got to Mr. President's desk. But let's look at this. contemplating the consequences. You say the finance ministry is turning into a lobbying center against the will of the people. Do you feel then that the finance ministry is being used in some way to feel the pulse of the people or to justify, if that happens, the president not signing the bill? Is that what you think? Professor Agachi?
Well, that's my thinking, because you see, we've traveled through a long process. So these fears are supposed to be laid before Parliament to indicate that this is what we are thinking. If we are not careful, this will happen. But for us to wait up to this point and then release this thing to put fear in Ghanaians, to think that when we don't follow the direction of not signing, then something catastrophic will happen to us. I believe that is unacceptable. That is not in itself the right thing to be done.
Let me bring in Professor Isaac Bwedi, Dean, Faculty of Accounting and Finance at the University for Professional Studies, Accra. Professor Bwedi, good morning to you.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners.
Of course, Professor Bwedi, right.
Okay.
Professor Bwedi joins us via the phone. Let's start with the initial bit. What is your positioning on this bill, which now is to get to Mr. President, because he says it's not hit his desk yet, but is to get to him? What is your stance on the bill, in essence?
Yeah, on personal level, I support the passage of the bill, and I'll be pleased if today or tomorrow the President gives the assent to the bill. Now, as a country, because we don't live in an island, we operate, we function with other countries and institutions. So there's a need for us to be careful in terms of our pronouncement, in terms of the way we communicate. That is my advice. On the 28th of February, the Parliament of Ghana passed the proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian family values. Initially was a passage, to pass the bill. Now the discussion has moved from the passage to sign or not to sign. It is a fluid situation. And we have been told by the Ministry of Finance yesterday, by the press release, cataloging about 7 important issues that will happen if the bill, the President assents to the bill.
And since you brought it up, Professor Bwedi, let me just bring up some of those to break them down so everyone can know. In assessing the bill, the Finance Ministry put together a paper on the economic impact of the bill, and it said Ghana would lose $600 million budgetary support, $250 million for the Financial Stability Fund, that it would negatively impact Ghana's foreign exchange reserves. They also see the expected $300 million financing from the First Ghana Resilient Recovery Development Policy operational budget support, which is currently pending parliamentary approval, might not or may not be disbursed by the bank, the World Bank. According to the ministry, ongoing negotiations on the second Ghana Resilient Recovery Development Policy operation for budgetary support amounting to $300 million may be suspended. But these are all ifs. But you share your thoughts on them, and then we'll go through them and find out the reality on the ground.
Before, let me come to the realities on the ground. Before the passage, the general mood of every Ghanaian, the various surveys that have been conducted, indicated that majority of Ghanaians, our background, Muslim, Christian, traditional, we don't support the the general. Now, because we have...
We don't support what? I think you have to clarify, because it's a bit vague.
I mean, the activity of this community, that was the general thing. But we as a country, we are aware. Now, because if the passage will have impact on economic-related issues, for instance, we're talking about impact on the budget. 2024 projected revenue supposed to be about 176.4 billion, as against expenditure of 224 billion or so. All the time, we have operated with a deficit budget, even with the support from IMF. So now the narrative, if the president assents to the bill or the passage, fine, we are going to have a lot of economic implications. That is true. What do we do? I'm sure that will be the discussions now, but not to be threatened by the international community to accept what they practice in their country.
Okay.
We have a challenge. So I'm sure the focus should be, what should we do? In an event where we say that, yeah, we're fine, what will be the consequences? And what do we do? I'm sure that is where the discussion will focus on. And maybe we can come with a solution after other submissions.
But what do you think? It would appear then, like some suggest, that these international institutions, which in themselves claim to be all-encompassing, all-embracing, are weaponizing the LGBTQ conversation against any countries saying they have, and by the way, sovereign countries saying they want to go a certain way. Now, there are many other countries that have gone down this road. Would you say then, Prof, before I go back to Professor Gachi, that this is being weaponized economically?
I didn't hear the last one.
So the positioning then that we now hear of, and I will go to the example of Uganda, for example, the likes of Google, Microsoft had, expressed their concerns when the bill was brought before the president, Yoweri Museveni, and he went ahead and signed it. And there have been some consequences on the back of that. My question is LGBT being weaponized against countries that have laws or are proposing laws against it?
I can also turn the question the other way. Which other countries have also developed LGBT finance or support? Dubai developed with oil money. We can give a plethora of several countries that have developed without a support from these communities. Of course, we will not say that we want to do things that will anger the international community. No. But it's important also to state our position, and it's very clear. Our late president,
Professor Atta Mills?
Yes, was bold enough to state the position of our country. Look, there are times we can down the consequences and have a broader consultation on how to resolve issues in our own country. Budget is just expenditure and revenue. If I know that all the time I exceed my revenue in terms of my expenditure, what should I do? Just to trim or cut my expenditure on things that are not ready, and rather find a way and increase my revenue stream. What can we do as a country in a phase where the IMF and other countries will deny us of some funds? What should we do? That is where it calls for broader consultation. We don't hate the people involved in the act, but we hate the act. That should be our slogan. That should be what we should profit.
So you're saying we don't hate the people involved in the act, but we hate the act. That's what you're saying.
Yes. And because we are in an election year, that is why they are using that as a weapon for other political parties to feed into this. Tomorrow, if you wake up and NDC they come up to say, well, we will support. And MPP will say we don't support. I think we should take it out of our election discussion, because these are things that will have future consequences for our generation to come. Because all the funds that we see from international community, they don't come to us for free. We pay interest. Go to Colombo. The sentence. We use the same. It's still part of our expenditure. So all the funds that we receive from them invariably are used to kill the same people. But I'm saying that we should not stand and annoy these international organizations. But it's important to state our position clear that as a country, we don't support this. However, if we choose to trade with us, we will do.
All right. Let me bring in Professor Gachi. So, Prof, you would note that, and interestingly, it was March 2023 that Uganda was considering this bill. It went before President Yoweri Museveni. March 2024. It is Ghana's turn, and it appears the trend seems to be the same. But in March 2023, in Uganda's case, the Open for Business Coalition said the legislation which criminalizes identifying as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer would curb investment flows and deter tourists. Now, our finance ministry is saying at the end of its paper, it says, quote, while no direct conditionality in the IMF ECF program relating to the passage of the bill has been identified, the principles of the current IMF ECF program are built on predictable financing from development partners, financing assurances that is, including the World Bank-funded Ghana Resilience Recovery Development Policy operations. The same World Bank, in the case of Uganda, came out to say that you go this way and we may not be able to execute some of our projects with you and dole out some of the money we are supposed to dole out. Though, technically, that's not what their policy, their mission statement says. What do you think this means in reality, Professor Gachi?
Finance Ministry should be doing that if there is any statement from the World Bank and the rest, what the Finance Ministry should be doing is to put in the terms of the contract of the loan before the World Bank, and not to take something which is at the fringes, which is not part of the contract of the loans, as a weapon to deter the sensitivity of Ghanaians.
But Professor Gachi, human rights issues bordering on human dignity and the rest, they are a without which not. They are not fused into some of these contracts, but they are embedded, so to speak, because of international law, right?
Why are we dealing with the World Bank? We are dealing with the World Bank based on a contract. It's as simple as that. If their interest is to the effect that they don't like certain issue regarding LGBT, those things can be discussed. And I keep saying that the protection of the interest and of this group of people is also very important. But that does not mean that a structure that is put in place to keep the value system of Ghanaians intact should not be respected. And the Finance Ministry enters into all these contracts based on law. In fact, there are international conventions that also encourages the World Bank, IMF, etc., not to use LGBT issues as a weapon against countries. For example, saying that we will not provide funding when those countries actually meet the threshold requirement to receive funding from the World Bank. So I think that should be a forum to discuss this in a humane manner, not forcefully or not to use it as a weapon against nations. That's the point I'm making.
So that is the point you are making. But do you feel that the conditions precedent or what our bill states is apt? So I'm looking for, there are 3 and 5 year terms for those involved in this in different ways, whether promotion or actual involvement. Let me get to the details of that. If you look at the Ugandan example, it states, for example, that there'll be the death penalty for those who commit so-called aggravated homosexuality, defined as same-sex relations with people under the age of 18, or when the perpetrator is HIV positive, among other categorizations. When you come to Ghana's own bill, it states that there will be a 3-year jail term for engaging in LGBTQI plus activities and a 5-year jail term for promoting LGBTQI plus activities. Let's narrow on that just a bit. Do you feel that is apt, though it is a watered down version of what Uganda has? Do you feel this is apt? Could we have had a more humane approach to this? For example, Afenyo Markin thinks the sentences could have been non-custodial. What's your thinking on that?
Well, I do not want to express views on this matter so much, but the point I am making is that the people of Ghana have decided to go in a particular direction. And that direction is not strange in other countries. So that is the direction of the country. And that's what we are speaking to. So as to whether there should be custodian sentences or not custodian sentences, that one I'll leave it to the lawmakers. But the bill reflects largely about 90% of the interests of Ghanaians. And also, it's required under international law that we also find a way of protecting those who are into LGBTQ issues. That is the point. But the point should not be made that the bill is not necessary to be signed. That means we are fighting against the sensitivity and the interest of the majority of Ghanaians.
I'll put this question to both of you, starting with you, Professor Gachi. One, do you feel the Bretton Woods institutions, World Bank, IMF, among others, are being hypocritical? Do you feel they are foisting their opinions or their desires on us? And if you do, how do we navigate these economic waters? We have the case of Ignatius Kutu Echampo. Can we be self-sufficient? The president has spoken about Ghana beyond aid. What do you think? Are they being hypocritical? And if we want to go ahead, how do we navigate those turbulent, choppy financial waters? All right. I see Professor Gachi's connection is static. Prof, did you get the question?
Yes, I get a question.
All right, please go ahead then.
Can I go? Okay. Well, this hypocrisy have been discussed since our...
All right, Professor Gachi, I'll come back to you. Professor Abwedi, please, you can take that one before we wrap up, if you have thoughts on saying.
Yeah, can you reframe the question? You said you were,
Are the Bretton Woods institutions being hypocritical by adopting this stance? And if we decide to go ahead, how do we navigate these economic waters?
Well, every organization will have their modus operandi, their interest and the way they function. It's difficult to say yes or no. But just to future discussions well, objectives are often set by every organization. And if that could be an undertone of what they seek to provide, that's a different discussion. But let us not forget that objectives are often the premise of the one to provide the service and all that. In none of the conditions for signing the trade agreement, I've never seen this in any of these organizations in terms of the agreement. There's a new thing that I need to be told. How do we navigate through this? I would have loved this bill not passed at this stage when we happen to go into an election year, I would have preferred maybe next year, because that is where all the political parties are going to feed on. And I've been telling colleagues and friends that the success of any political party now, in terms of the election, will depend on two things: past the economic realities or challenges or the solution, the choice of running it, and then this issue of LGBT. Who supports it? Which party would support it at this stage? Now, how do we navigate through this? I'm sure we should use any procedural means available, probably not to delay, to delay the bill, to allow external negotiation to go through, and then we sign. We should also not, for short better words, get this international organization angry by words. We should be careful with the choice of words that we use, and so maintain our position as a country, as a sovereign nation. That should be my approach. The courts are there. Individuals have the right to demonstrate, do whatever they want to do, so maintain the values of our citizens.
Professor Gachi?
Well, the international community have been working with countries for a very long time, and that relationship is necessary and has to continue. But some reflections of the international community does not match with the value system of countries, especially in Africa. And there should be a way for these countries and these international bodies to find a way of understand the value system in these countries, especially in Africa countries. And that is the way we can work together. They need us, we need them. That is the situation. Well, I would not say that they are hypocritical at this point. All I would say is that some of their thinking does not reflect our society, and that we are minded to protect our societies. And that is the difference, and they need to get to that point to accept what we are doing. But it's...
Hello, Prof. All right. It appears today the connection to Prof has really been bad. Before I take your final comments, and this will be the final comment I'll take, just to let everyone know that yesterday in Parliament, it was a bit tricky because when this whole issue about the Finance Ministry coming out with this paper was brought to bear, our correspondent, Kweku Asante, also reveals in some interactions, without wanting to be made public or come on air, members of Parliament on the majority side and the minority side were incensed by that bit. And we can actually check out what the report was on that before we conclude.
The expectation is that the clerk to Parliament, Cyril Kwabena-Otinisia, will send that anti-gay bill passed by Parliament last week to the desk of the President this week. Finance Ministry, as we now know, have written to the President asking him not to sign because of some significant economic impact it will have on the country. The minority MPs are furious about the situation. They say Ghana cannot sell its sovereignty on the altar of a few dollars that institutions like the World Bank and the IMF bring in. Listen to Hassan Suhini, an MP for Sagnerigu, Alhaji Ebi Efuseni, making the strong point for why they believe that this is not a good basis to ask the President not to sign.
Without any iota of doubt, it's an insult to the good people of this country to say that Ghana as a sovereign country, as a sovereign independent country, must subsume the rights, interests, and aspirations of people to the altar of the interests and beliefs and values of external bodies like the IMF, World Bank, and WHO. So the interest of the World Bank, IMF, is more than that of Ghanaians.
It's a tragedy. It's very disappointing that the finance ministry, headed by a minister a while ago who spoke highly about the pride of our country, all of a sudden will be taking this position.
Alhaji ABF Hussaini is also calling on the Ghanaian public to pour out on the streets to demand that President Akufo-Addo sign this bill into law.
Rise up and make sure that this particular, and I'm telling you that the streets must be flooded. Everybody must be prepared on this matter. To come onto the streets, thousands and millions of people must be prepared to flood the streets on this matter to protect our independence and sovereignty.
Former President John Dramani Mahama has been categorical that he supports this bill. He has also said that he does not accept LGBTQ activities in the country. The presidential candidate for the New Patriotic Party, however, has not said anything on this publicly. Member of Parliament for Bole Bambo, Yusuf Suleimana, is urging Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to come out publicly to express his view on this matter.
The flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, to speak on this matter. The former President John Dramani Mahama and the candidate for the NDC has spoken and he has made his position clear. Are you saying that when he comes to power, he will need foreign aid? He's aware of the implications, but he has juxtaposed the harm that this will cause us vis-a-vis the income or the wealth that we are going to get from foreign aid.
The president will then have 7 days to signify to Parliament whether or not he intends to sign it, and if he does not intend to sign it, within 14 days to write a memorandum to the Speaker of Parliament explaining which specific clauses in the law he does not wish to sign and proffering his own amendments. The House can then, by 2/3 majority, veto the president and force him to sign. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
And that's the final bit. If the president doesn't sign it, Parliament still has some leeway to maneuver. If they have 2/3 majority, they can actually make it a law. And that is where this whole majority-minority conundrum comes in. But I'll take your final words, gentlemen, starting with you, Professor Bwedi.
Thank you very much. Let's remember our eternal words of our Professor Atomos, our late president. Keep your gay money. These words should kill us, in the campaign. So I think well, it's fine, but then we should also be careful and refer also to recommendations by the Minister of Finance. They didn't only give us their the economic implications of the signing of the bill, but rather they also gave us solutions. In fact, they indicated that African Development Bank will not have any issue whether we sign or we don't sign. They also indicated that we should have an effective engagement with other conservative countries, including Arab countries and China. And I'm sure this also will help trigger resources to fill in the potential financing gap to be created. We gave a solution. So we can go by the solution. And my final word, before the president even signs, I wish we engage the international community, let them know our position. We also need to have a stakeholder consultation in event where funds are delayed or funds are not given from the international community. How do we raise our revenue and how do we reduce our expenditure, which is projected to be 224 billion? What can we do? Through tax? Increase the tax, widen the tax base? What do we do? The bracket. What do we do? These are consultations that we need. And then we should be very careful in terms of our communication on radio, on TV, and the rest. If you don't support, let's state our position clear, but we should not find ourselves, fueling international community anger and all that. No, it won't help. And we should not so use this for politics. It won't help us.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor Isaac Bwedi, Dean, Faculty of Accounting and Finance at the UPSA. I'll wrap with Professor Gachi. You have the final take. What are your final words? All right. We've lost Prof one more time. And that was Professor Gachi as well, Dean of the UCC School of Business, Professor John Gachi. Stay with us. There's still a lot more to come right here on the AM show. Of course, we're still going to be exploring that situation to do with the vetting of appointees of Akufo-Addo. And we'll also bring you up to speed on the Joy News Impact Makers Awards 2024. We'll be back.